7. Barrett outside, the switch. Doncic goes on.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you guys are doing well. And as you guys know, Knicks fans, the New York Knicks have not been doing well this season, as we are 1-9 in our last 10 games. It looks like we're not going to make the playoffs, and it looks like we may not even make the play-in. But what really does the play-in do for us moving forward with having a bunch of guys that may not be here moving forward, and it's going to trick the front office into thinking we're a better team than we actually are. But where do I start? Tom Thibodeau, just terrible rotations, not holding guys accountable, no identity. There's just so much I could say about Tom Thibodeau. The offense has been bad. I appreciate what he did last year, but he's just been absolutely awful this year. Like, I had a whole video on Tom Thibodeau. Like, I'm not going to waste your time with that. You guys know what Tom Thibodeau has done this season. Julius Randle being extremely disappointing, not just his play on the court, but, like, has he, or not even just like putting up stats, like, is he being a leader? Is, like, which he's not, at least on a consistent basis. You could say he's being a leader in the gym, but there's no communication. It's just a mess. It just looks like he's not consistently engaged on both ends of the floor. It's just been an awful season. And I feel like the worst thing that could have happened this season, even a worst case scenario, because you guys are probably wondering, what do you mean, Noah? How do you think, like, what do you mean, like, it could get worse from here? Yeah, it could literally be a worse season when you really think about it. Yes, the New York Knicks have been bad. Tom Thibodeau may not even be the coach here moving forward. Julius Randle may not moving forward. Mitchell Robinson, he may walk in the offseason. Some people are happy about that. Some people want to re-sign him. But could you imagine if we were having this bad season, Julius Randle's having this bad season, and Tibbs didn't even make adjustments of consistently giving the ball to RJ Barrett? At least we have one bright spot here. RJ Barrett. And I'm not rooting for anyone's downfall, but if Julius Randle was having a good year this year, would we see RJ Barrett's progression? Would we see him consistently involved in the offense? In my opinion, we would still see RJ Barrett standing in the corner if Randle was playing good basketball. Because I feel like I look at Tom Thibodeau, and he's like, Julius Randle's our horse. We're going to ride him to the play-in. We're going to ride him if it's for a bad season. We're going to ride him to the playoffs. He's going to ride Julius Randle no matter what. Because if we like it or not, Julius Randle, he was an all-star last year, which we love, but he has not been good this year. He hasn't. Like, he could have a good 3 quarters of basketball and then absolutely fold in the fourth quarter, but Randle's been so inconsistent when it comes to just his leadership, just his defense, his offense, just making the right decision, that he had no choice but to get RJ Barrett involved. So think about that. If Randle was having a good season, would we get to see more from RJ Barrett? In my opinion, no. But this is a huge thing here, that we're getting to see what our 3rd overall pick is. Because when you select someone 3rd overall, the biggest nightmare is we don't get to see what he is. And we're starting to see what RJ Barrett is. Has he always had these moves in his bag, or a deeper bag than we actually knew? But, like, we didn't get to see those moves in his bag because of Julius Randle being the key star of the offense, and just this offense being so bland. No consistent ball movement. Give it to Randle. Let him be Carmelo Anthony. Because I felt like last year we didn't really know what RJ Barrett fully was. Like, we would see this guy stand in the corner. We would see some potential off the dribble. We would see some defense. Like, he put up his points. He had a good second half of the season. But it was like, this is our 3rd overall pick. We're not even seeing what this dude is fully capable of. But imagine if RJ went to a situation where he was drafted. There was no Julius Randle. Randle was like, I'm going to sign with the Knicks because I could be the top option. I'm going to get my bag. I want my team. And I feel like RJ went to a weird situation. Like, RJ, when you select someone 3rd overall, you hope that's one of your guys. And he was just completely frozen out of the offense time after time again. So sometimes I do wonder what RJ would look like if he was that top option. Like, if he was treated like that 3rd overall pick, which he's starting to be treated like. So, yes, that's the worst-case scenario of this season. That would have been the worst-case scenario of this season if we're one of the worst teams in basketball. We're the 12th seed. We're 1-9 in our last 10 games. Thibodeau may not be the coach moving forward, or is not the coach moving forward, in my opinion. Randle's having this bad year, and we don't even know what RJ Barrett is, the guy we spent the 3rd overall pick on. You can't miss out on that 3rd overall pick. But we're getting to see what RJ is. We're really starting to open up the playbook more for him, or even if Tom Thibodeau even has a playbook, it may just be giving the ball to RJ, not just standing in the corner, like these dribble handoffs, just consistently having him involved in the action, attacking the basket, more isolation situations, less of, let's see what Randle could do with the shot towards the end of the second quarter entering halftime, you know what I mean? And there was just so much of like RJ 15, 16 points in the first half, consistently gets frozen out of the offense in the second half. It goes right back to Julius Randle. We freeze him out. We're seeing less of that. As let's get into some numbers here. I'm not a huge like statistical guy, like, but numbers don't lie. And can we just accept, or actually I'm not going to accept it, but RJ Barrett throughout his career, he's just started off bad. Like at the beginning of his seasons. This year, you could defend him, or you could defend him last year too. Like, it's hard to be efficient. It's hard to be consistent. When you're not consistently having the ball in your hands, when your coach isn't playing throughout your strengths. Like, it's really hard to just be consistent when you're treated as a catch-and-shoot guy, and that's not your game. So maybe things will change next year if he's consistently getting the ball, from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Maybe we won't see these 10-point nights on terrible shooting. Like, he's going to have bad nights, but I want him having bad nights of shooting 16 shots, not freaking 8 shots, and him getting frozen out of the offense. So, yes, he's gone off to shaky starts like these last couple seasons. He really has been. But you could defend him saying he hasn't really consistently gotten the ball. The offense is so bland. The spacing is so trash. But has RJ Barrett officially arrived the 3rd overall pick? He's been playing good basketball, but we need to see him close out the season. So, let's get into these numbers here. In January, he's averaging 21.8 points per game, 1 steal, 3.2 assists per game, 6 rebounds, 40% from 3 on 6 attempts, good volume. We're going to be getting into the context of these buckets, don't worry. So, you just love that. He's getting 6 attempts from beyond the arc. But again, it goes into context, are these good shots that he is taking? He's shooting 43.6% from the field. I believe he's shooting 41% from the field for the season. I do believe that's going to go up. But it's an as-of-late league. Shooting 68% from the line, 6 attempts per game. He's averaging 35 minutes per game. Let's get to the free throw thing real quick. RJ Barrett's a physical dude. And I believe the reason why he's starting to get to the free throw line more is he's starting to lower his shoulder. He's someone that's known for not getting calls, and he's starting to flop. And you need to flop to get to the free throw line. You do. Like, you could hate on me for it, but Luka flops, Trae Young flops, LeBron flops, Harden, and Embiid, the best players flop. It's just what you have to do nowadays. But I do believe he's starting to lower his shoulder more and be more physical around the rim, and he's starting to throw up less wild shots because he used to fade away from the contact. But anyway, he's getting to the free throw line, but he needs to start knocking these down. Like, he's starting to get to the free throw line on a good clip, but I feel like he needs to change up his free throw routine. Like, yes, he's had the same thing since high school. He spins the ball, there's no dribbles. And I feel like it's hard to get into a rhythm from the free throw line if you have no dribbles. That may just be me, though, but he improved last year up until the 70s, which he was like horrible his first year. I remember at the very beginning he was shooting like 50% from the free throw line at 47. He eventually bumped it up to 61, which still isn't great. I feel like he's a better shooter than that. He needs to change up that routine. That's just my opinion. So, he obviously had an excellent January. We're going to be getting into the defense and all that. Don't worry, we're going to be getting into the context, like compared to last year, what he's doing different. So, a good January. In February, you could say it's a smaller sample size because of that ankle injury. So, in February, he's averaging 28.3 points per game, 3.7 assists per game, 5.8 rebounds, or he averaged 66.7% from the free throw line on 10 free throw attempts a game. That Miami Heat game definitely did help when he went to the free throw line, I believe, like over 20 times. 39% from beyond the arc on 6.8 attempts. 42.9% from the field, he could round up to 43, and 40 minutes of action. Of course, Tom Thibodeau, 40 minutes of action. So there was that scare. When RJ Barrett had the ankle injury, he went back into the basketball game when the game was completely over. And I was like, oh my gosh, Derrick Rose 2.0 situation. We could have went on a run. The game was freaking over. And Tom Thibodeau put RJ Barrett back in the game. Injures his ankle. And RJ Barrett was playing good basketball. I thought he was going to stop playing good basketball because I'm like, oh great, ankle injury. He's going to be out of rhythm when he comes back. And you could say, like, I thought he was going to miss more games. I don't know. I was so afraid that we're going to rush him back. But the game he comes back from his ankle injury, he drops 46 versus the Miami Heat. And we were competitive in that game. The final score does not really dictate how that game was. At the Garden, them chanting, RJ Barrett had that step back 3 to end the first half. Like, we started to see a deeper bag from RJ. We saw his full arsenal in that game. He got after it defensively. You could say he got into foul trouble. And one little thing to nitpick about the Knicks, I feel like we need more perimeter defenders, or we need more versatile defenders, because most of the time you look at these other teams, when these players are getting theirs, when they're scoring the basketball, like, you don't want your top guy scoring the ball to get tired. You don't want him to have that much of a load on defense. So I feel like we needed someone else to defend Jimmy in the post, because they were trying to take RJ out of the game. Like, he had 30 in the first half. He was just brilliant in, like, pretty much every asset of the game, or part of the game. We're going to be getting into the negative, though. But they've really started to get him, like, fatigued, even though he finished with 46. Like, when you're with Tom Thibodeau, though, you're going to be a well-conditioned player. But he got to the free throw line a lot. We saw a step back. We saw that fadeaway in his bag. Like, he just pretty much showed everything, and I thought he played well defensively. Like, he wasn't a step slow coming back from an ankle injury. It really was brilliant to see. But this is the thing, he got to the free throw line a lot of times, but he was bad. Like, he didn't shoot well from the free throw line. He could have had over 50. Like, he put points on the board. He put a 50-burger. He left the 50-burger out there on the floor. Like, if we lost, a 50-burger would sound cooler. I'm not nitpicking here. But he had 46, which was awesome. Like, him starting to get consistently involved in the offense. Like, you're really starting to see how he's consistently involved in the offense more, not just standing in the corner. Because he had, like, 2 brand new career highs this season. Like, he had 27, which was his career high his rookie year. Brand new career high second year against the Thunder. He had 32, I believe. Then he tied his career high, I believe, at the beginning of the season, or kind of towards the beginning. Then he passes that with 36 versus the Lakers. Don't get him involved in overtime, so we didn't get to see the 40-burger, or we didn't get to see the 40 points, or like a brand new career of 40. And then you saw him get 46 versus on the Miami Heat, which is one of the best defensive teams in basketball. They're no slouch at all. He was just taking advantage of mismatches, scoring off the dribble. It was awesome. And what do we notice there? Like, he would have 15, 16 points, like, in these first halves, but then could completely get frozen out of the offense. That didn't happen. Like, if I'm giving Tibbs any credit, he hasn't frozen RJ Barrett out of the offense, which I really do like. Yes, there's some moments there that you can nitpick, but he does need to get better from the free throw line. Maybe he does need to change up his routine, but dropping 46, like, versus Miami, coming back from an ankle injury, and you're, like, competitive throughout that game. You brought the Knicks back, but the Heat were too much. We were making boneheaded decisions. We were turning the ball over. Then versus Philly, you could say, like, he was the huge reason we're in that game. Randall was really struggling offensively. He had key buckets of getting to the free throw line. He talked about improving from the free throw line, though. Shot, like, 6 for 10. Like, he just needs to get better from that department. He really does. But let's get into the context here. Like, how is RJ Barrett getting his buckets compared to last year and prior years? His bag's deeper. Or maybe his bag's always been this deep, but we never have gotten to see what RJ Barrett really is offensively, his whole bag, because of Julius Randle, because of not running the offense through him, like maybe we should have done when we drafted him. Or maybe we shouldn't have signed Julius Randle. Kind of looking back, like, why'd they sign him if we knew we're going to have a top 3 pick? I don't know. Bobby Portis, Alfred Payne, freaking signing all those guys, Wayne Ellington, that was a weird offseason. Marcus Morris, he was supposed to go to the Spurs. Anyway, why would he just accepted more money from us, Marcus Morris. But let's put into context of how he's getting these buckets. Last year, it was a lot of stand in the corner, catch and shoot type of shots. But what did I want to see this year? I wanted to see him break guys down off the dribble. This is their 3rd overall pick. If you want to be one of the top guys in our offense, you have to become unpredictable. You got to be versatile. You got to be able to learn to play with the ball and without the basketball. And even though I hate that he was a catch-and-shoot guy last year, that's not his game. We didn't play him throughout his strengths at all. And the spacing's been bad. Like, Fournier's a good shooter of the ball, but it could still be cluttered. Like, not everyone's communicating of where you should be out there on the basketball floor. But you got to learn to be more unpredictable of an offensive player. When a play breaks down and, like, you're not open, and if you're not capable of scoring off the dribble, you're just stuck in a terrible situation. You just know that you're not going to get a bucket there. But it's less of catch and shoot and just driving to the basket. It was just very predictable from RJ. It was like either a catch and shoot 3-pointer or a drive to the basket. Occasionally he would knock down a shot off the dribble. It would be very rare. I'm not saying it's on a James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving consistent basis of scoring off the dribble, but we're seeing progression of elevating his game. When plays break down, we're starting to see these step-back threes. We're starting to see him maneuver around screens with his body control, changing speed of direction, pulling up from mid-range territory. We're starting to see this. One of my favorite moves of his is when we didn't see this at all last year. At least I don't remember seeing it, at least on a consistent basis. He's starting to use it a lot more, which I like. Like, because you know RJ is someone that's going to look to drive and be physical, lower his shoulder, and try to draw fouls that way. He's starting to add finesse to his game of he could be on the left wing, the corner, like the right wing, just wherever he's out there on the basketball floor. He'll dribble penetrate, stop on a dime, they'll think he's going to lay it up, and then he fades away. I love that he's adding a fadeaway. So he's starting to become a 3-level scorer. Of course, we need to see the mid-range consistently, and we need... Yeah, I feel like the mid-range is the top thing. And obviously, he's proven to be a solid three-point shooter at the NBA level. He's really improved since his freshman year at Duke, not shooting a high clip. You look back at his rookie year, he only shot 31%. Then his next year, he really improved. We know he has this great work ethic. It's just constant reps with him. He's going to continue to shoot. He's a perfectionist, or he tries to be a perfectionist in the gym. Obviously, you're going to make mistakes out there on the basketball floor. And he's shooting around 35.8%. You could say it has dipped because he does have a higher level of difficulty with these three-point shots because he's taken on this bigger role with the offense, starting to shoot off the dribble. It's less of just catch and shoot. It's less of a predictable offense, which you like to see RJ Barrett out of his comfort zone and start to really hit these difficult shots or start taking these difficult shots, because it's only going to get him better as a player. Like, all this work you're putting in like at the gym really means nothing if you're not really putting it out there on the floor, and you have to be fearless. And RJ Barrett's definitely been fearless when it comes to shooting the three ball. He's constantly putting in the work. We know he's capable of being a solid finisher around the basket. I'm going to say solid because he's shown games that he could be a great finisher. Like, he's starting to finish a lot better with his right hand. He's starting to utilize his right hand a lot more, which I do like. He's starting to get stronger. He's not always looking to go to that left. Sometimes you could say he goes to his left too much, but I do like that he's utilizing that right hand. But the thing that really just gets on my nerves with RJ about finishing around the basket, like, I like that he's starting to be more aggressive, lowering his shoulder, but he can't always rely on that just strength. He doesn't have that Zion. He doesn't have that Giannis strength of driving to the basket, at least when Zion was playing basketball games. I would like to see him use that up fake more. And I like that he's starting to flop more because, like, he's just body control type of, like, he has a Shea, Giddey, like, Luka style of play that they're not sexy players to watch, you know what I mean? But they get it done based off of instincts and basketball IQ. They're good players, but they have, like, kind of this stiff, just like body control, IQ, good instincts type of game. And I feel like RJ is starting to bring that to the table. So he's starting to, like, just learn to draw fouls more, which I do like. So he's opening up his bag more. And he has shown that down the stretch of games. Like, you put him in an isolation situation, he's starting to take advantage of mismatches more, which I believe we couldn't really do that with him in the past. But he's starting to catch bigs on an island and execute. He's starting to catch not great defensive players on an island and execute. The handle does need to get better. It can get sloppy. It can really be stripped away from him. Sometimes he can telegraph his passes, like, you know where he's going with the basketball, and you see literally someone defending the passing lane, and he passes it right in that direction. Sometimes it cannot be the most accurate. But I do believe his handle is going to get better. Like, it's getting better in isolation situations. Just sometimes on the open floor it can get very high and loose, and he dribbles right into traffic and it's taken away. And you could say he needs to get better protecting the ball when going to the basket. Like you see some players like really hold on to it strong when going to the basket. Sometimes RJ's a little too loose with it. But he has good vision. He really does. Sometimes he needs to learn to be more balanced. Like, I like that he has this mentality, like, I don't care. Like, this is a big thing we love about RJ as well. Like, he has a great work ethic. Like, he's not soft. He's not afraid of the big moment. He's going to put in the work. Like, he's like, this is my moment. And I've liked over these last couple months that he's demanding the basketball down the stretch. He's demanding the basketball at all times. Like, I'm going to get mine. But there's certain moments that I'm like, awesome. He's dribble penetrating, recognizing the defense is collapsing on him. He's kicking it out. And sometimes he forces it at the rack. So I feel like sometimes he has tunnel vision, but sometimes he has good instincts. Like, I feel like he has good instincts, but it just comes down to, like, his mentality of making the right play and not always looking to get his. I'm not saying he's a selfish player. I actually think he's an unselfish player, and he cares about winning. He's very professional in his interviews. He's not a very me guy. He's like, he just wants to win basketball games. But the handle needs to get better. It's loose, like, if he wants to be one of those top options creating. But I like that he recognizes that I have to utilize screens because my off-the-dribble game of just breaking guys down, breaking their ankles, like, isn't at that level. but he has this good body control. He's good at changing speeds. Like, I do like that about RJ Barrett's game. I really do. But he's proven to get buckets in crunch time. If it was that huge shot against the Celtics, if it was against the Lakers, going coast to coast, hitting a big-time three. Like, you can't tell me RJ, like, obviously everyone deserves to be held accountable. RJ Barrett's not a perfect play. You can make boneheaded decisions when he turns the ball over, just a miscommunication. Like, everyone needs to be on the same page. But he's not the key reason we're losing basketball games. Like, you really can't say that at all, at least in my opinion. And I feel like one of my favorite plays of RJ when going back to his playmaking is I love when he utilizes the screen. If it's Mitchell Robinson rolling to the basket, if it's Taj Gibson, because we know we don't see much of Jericho Sims, and Noel hasn't been healthy this season. It's just what a mess of an offseason and all that. But I love the play when RJ does a great job. He brushes his shoulder off of the Mitch screen. Like, you could say Mitch needs to get better setting screens. Like, he needs to not move as much, and he just needs to set a hard, solid screen. But when RJ's driving to the basket, coming off that screen, you think he's going to utilize it, like, on the offense of the basketball and put up a floater, but it's really an alley-oop. Like, he tricks the defense into thinking that it's going to be a floater, but it's really an alley-oop to Mitchell Robinson. So I feel like he does a good job manipulating the defense in that way, but he does a good job using screens when it comes to scoring, opening up the game for him when it comes to mid-range, just really catching defenders on his hip, which the best players do. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, just some of the best scorers, you know, to really bait them into thinking that, like, maybe I'm going to pass here, or maybe I'm going to drive, or I'm going to change direction. Like, I feel like it's so unpredictable when someone catches you, like, on your hip. Like, what are they going to look to do? Are they just trying to, like, feel you up and get into that rhythm? But he just recognizes when to pass and recognizes when to shoot or drive to the basket coming off those screens. Like, I really do like that about RJ Barrett's game. He has a good feel for the game, and he does a good job changing speeds and directions, like I mentioned. But I feel we don't know what RJ Barrett's, like, full ceiling is distributing the basketball, because the spacing is just so terrible and no one's, like, consistently in the spot they're supposed to be in. It just looks like a cluttered mess. The offense is so bland. So I'm excited to see what RJ Barrett will look like in a few years if he's still a New York Knick. Hopefully he is. If we have a less vanilla offense, because I feel like RJ could be even a better playmaker if there's better spacing, if there's the right personnel around him, because just sometimes it's just a total mess. No one's constantly moving, and I feel like RJ thrives when it comes to just him being reactionary and just making quick decisions, not holding on to the ball too long. But just imagine him in a better offense than Tom Thibodeau's. And now lastly, getting into his defense. Like, I feel like we've covered, like, most parts of RJ Barrett's game, or, like, majority of everything. I do like his defense. He has that mentality of, like, I'm not afraid, I'm a competitor, and I feel like you need that to be a good defender in this league. If it's a Kawhi Leonard, if it's a Paul George, if it's a Mikal Bridges, just Anthony Davis when he's out there on the floor, you need that competitive spirit on defense. Joel Embiid. You need to be competitive. You have to not be afraid, and that's what RJ Barrett is. He doesn't care who he's guarding. He's like, this isn't someone I grew up watching. This is just a basketball player I'm playing up against. And let's get into the weaknesses first off. Or actually, we'll get into the positives. When he's locked in, moving his feet, just having active hands, defending the passing lane, just really using his strength, getting up in guys' jerseys, he's a good defensive player. When his hips are opened up, he's a good defender. But then there's times that, like, he gets caught on screens, he's late on closeouts, but you could also say the defensive scheme just isn't the greatest, or the defensive system's not the greatest, and it kind of sets RJ Barrett up to fail, or a lot of these players up to fail. But there's moments that sometimes he just doesn't move laterally well. He just really struggles with these shifty types of guys. His hips aren't consistently opened up, which causes him to get lost and just allow the offensive player to just dribble penetrate. But he's still young. He can consistently get better when it comes to his basketball IQ of, like, watching film. Like, maybe you have to shut him off when it comes to just not allowing him to get the ball to his left hand. Just giving an example there. Just shutting off the key positives of his game or the key strengths of his game. But RJ Barrett has been a key bright spot this year in a very bad New York Knicks season. Let me know down below your thoughts, and peace out, y'all.